I never thought I'd be posting my life drama on here, but my entire family is completely losing their minds over what I did, and I honestly just need to get this off my chest. To understand why I did what I did, you need to know about my older sister, Chloe. Chloe is 26, I'm 24, and she has been the undisputed golden child of our family since the day she was born. Our parents absolutely worship the ground she walks on. Growing up, Chloe was intensely competitive with me. If I got an A on a test, she had to brag about her A+. If my parents bought me a nice dress for prom, Chloe would throw a massive tantrum until they bought her an even more expensive designer dress just to overshadow me. She simply could not handle me having anything that was uniquely mine. Which brings me to Liam. Liam and I started dating 3 years ago. He is genuinely one of the kindest, most supportive people I've ever met. Our relationship was healthy, stable, and deeply loving. By the time we hit our 3-year anniversary, we were openly discussing marriage. We had looked at rings, talked about moving into a bigger apartment, and were essentially heading straight toward an engagement. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had something beautiful that Chloe couldn't touch or ruin. But then there was Julian. Julian is 27, incredibly wealthy, ridiculously attractive, and works as a senior consultant at my dad's firm. Because of his connection to my dad, he was a frequent guest at our family dinners. For the past 2 years, Chloe has been completely, desperately obsessed with him. I'm talking full-on delusion. She would throw herself at him every single time he visited, wear her most revealing outfits, send him endless Instagram DMs, and tell her friends she was manifesting their future wedding. Julian, however, was a total professional. He always politely rejected her advances, kept his distance, and treated her like an annoying, spoiled younger sibling. Well, a few months ago, the bubble burst. Word got back to our dad that Julian had started officially dating a coworker from his firm's corporate office. When Chloe found out, she had a literal, psychological meltdown. She locked herself in her room for 3 days, crying, screaming, and tearing down pictures. In her twisted mind, her one true love had been stolen from her. But instead of accepting reality, her heartbreak rapidly mutated into pure, toxic bitterness. She became angry at the entire world, but especially at me. She couldn't stand looking at me and Liam being happy, laughing, and planning our future while she was single and rejected. She decided right then that if she couldn't have her perfect love story, I wasn't allowed to have mine either. So, Chloe orchestrated a hit job on my relationship. She used her graphic design skills to meticulously fake an entire thread of Instagram DMs. She created a burner account, found photos of a random local guy, and fabricated a months-long conversation between him and me. The scary part is how calculated she was. She used photos from my public Instagram to match specific dates, so the fake DMs showed me texting this guy things like, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Liam thinks I'm at the gym," on the exact nights I actually was at the gym wearing that specific outfit. She then anonymously sent the screenshots to Liam's inbox. Liam was completely blindsided and devastated. He came over to our apartment shaking, throwing his phone onto the counter. I looked at the screenshots and my stomach dropped. I tried to defend myself, I screamed that it wasn't me, I offered to show him my actual phone, but the evidence Chloe fabricated was too perfect. Because of the matching dates and outfits, Liam felt the proof was undeniable. He looked at me with so much disgust, told me he didn't even know who I was anymore, packed a bag, and walked out. He blocked me on every single platform that same night. I spent the next 2 weeks in a state of absolute catatonic depression. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Meanwhile, Chloe was suddenly in a fantastic mood, acting overly sweet to me and offering to take me shopping to get my mind off things. The truth came out by pure accident. Chloe had gone out for drinks with her friends and left her old iPad on the kitchen counter. It vibrated with a notification, and when I tapped the screen, it didn't have a passcode. It opened up right into her photo gallery. As I scrolled, I found a hidden, deleted folder. Inside were the raw Photoshop project files of the fake DMs, screenshots of the burner account she created, and a text message to her best friend that read, "If I have to sit here and watch Julian love someone else, she doesn't get to be happy either." Had to level the playing field, hugs and kisses. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the iPad. I didn't cry. Instead, a wave of cold, absolute fury washed over me. I realized right then that crying wouldn't fix this, and confronting her would only make her play the victim to our parents. Chloe wanted a war, but she expected me to throw tantrums. Instead, I decided to play the long game. I copied every single piece of evidence to a secure drive and vowed to make her watch her worst nightmare come to life. 6 months went by. 6 incredibly long, painful months. Liam never came back, and honestly, the initial blinding agony of the breakup had slowly dulled into a cold, hard scar. I had done a lot of healing, but I hadn't forgotten a single thing. I still had that secure drive with the Photoshop files stashed away, waiting for the right moment. Around this time, a massive shift happened. Julian's relationship with his corporate coworker officially ended. Apparently, she got transferred to an overseas office, and they couldn't handle the long distance, so they parted ways amicably. The second Chloe found out, she kicked into absolute overdrive. She genuinely saw this as her grand cosmic sign that they were meant to be. She completely doubled down on her obsession, buying a whole new wardrobe of expensive, flashy clothes, drowning herself in perfume every time he was mentioned, and constantly begging our dad to find any excuse to invite Julian over to the house. She was desperate to swoop in and claim her prize. Then, fate handed me the perfect opening. I was at a quiet local coffee shop just a few blocks away from my dad's office building, reading a book, when I looked up and saw Julian walking through the door. Usually, whenever he came around, I was just the quiet, polite younger sister who blended into the background while Chloe sucked all the oxygen out of the room. But today, Chloe wasn't here. Julian spotted me, smiled, and walked over to say hi. Instead of shrinking back, I sat up, looked him in the eye, and struck up a genuine, mature conversation. We started talking about the book I was reading, which turned into a debate about our favorite authors, which then naturally transitioned into our career goals, psychology, and shared hobbies. I could see the exact moment his perception of me shifted. He was completely, pleasantly surprised by my wit, my humor, and my casual confidence. He was so used to the chaotic, suffocating, desperate energy that Chloe threw at him that talking to me was a breath of fresh air. We ended up sitting there talking for over an hour, laughing so loud that people were staring. Before he left, Julian looked at me, a little flustered, and asked, "Hey, I've really loved talking to you today. Would it be all right if I got your number?" I smiled, gave it to him, and the game officially began. We started texting casually at first, but it quickly escalated into a daily routine. From the very beginning, I made a strict rule for myself: I never, ever mentioned Chloe. I didn't bring her up, I didn't complain about her, and I kept the focus entirely on the organic chemistry developing between Julian and me. And honestly, the more we talked, the more I discovered we had this incredible, deep intellectual compatibility. We challenged each other. We had the exact same sarcastic sense of humor. A few weeks later, Julian asked me out on a proper dinner date. I told him I would love to go, but I asked him for a specific favor. I told him that because of my recent, incredibly messy breakup with my ex, I really wanted to keep our relationship completely low-key, private, and out of the public eye for a while. It wasn't a total lie, but it served a dual purpose: it protected my secret from my family, and it made me look vulnerable. Julian, being the absolute gentleman he is, respected my boundaries completely. He told me he just wanted to get to know me at my own pace. And that was the moment everything changed for me. It stopped being just a calculated plot for revenge. As we spent those quiet, secret nights together at hidden restaurants, walking through parks after dark, and talking until 3 a.m., I genuinely started falling in love with him. He was everything my sister wanted, but he was also everything I actually needed. living in the same house as Chloe during this phase was pure, comedic gold. At the dinner table, Chloe would violently swipe through her phone, loudly complaining to our parents about how Julian was taking hours to reply to her Instagram DMs or how he was probably just intimidated by her career. Meanwhile, right under the dinner table, my phone would be buzzing with a text from Julian sending me a funny meme or telling me he couldn't wait to see me the next day. I would look across the table at Chloe, put on my best sympathetic face, and say things like, "Oh, Chloe, don't worry. I'm sure he's just slammed with work at the firm. You shouldn't give up on him." I literally fueled her delusion, keeping her perfectly blinded while I built a fortress right under her nose. Julian and I dated seriously like this for 4 months. Our bond grew so strong that one weekend, while we were away at a cozy cabin out of town, he looked at me and told me he was entirely, deeply in love with me. I told him I loved him too. And in that moment, I knew the secret phase had served its purpose. It was finally time to bring our relationship into the light and let the trap snap shut. I needed the perfect environment for the grand reveal, and the universe delivered. My parents announced they were hosting a massive catered dinner party at our house to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary, and my dad, of course, invited Julian as a VIP guest. The moment Chloe heard Julian was coming, she lost her mind. She spent 3 entire weeks preparing for this single night. She dragged our mother to 3 different luxury boutiques, spent a ridiculous amount of money on a dramatic, tight designer dress, and booked professional hair and makeup artists. She was fully, utterly convinced that tonight was the night she would finally lock Julian down. I, on the other hand, chose to play it very differently. I bought a simple, elegantly tailored black dress. Nothing flashy, but it fit me perfectly. I did my own makeup, kept my hair classic, and stayed completely calm. The night of the party arrived. The house was packed with family friends, colleagues, and loud chatter. Around 7:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. Chloe, who had been hovering near the entryway like a hawk for an hour, practically sprinted to the door. She threw it open, revealing Julian standing there looking absolutely breathtaking in a tailored suit, holding a bottle of expensive wine. Chloe immediately leaned in, spreading her arms out to throw herself into a tight, dramatic hug. "Julian. Oh my gosh, I am so glad you could make it," she squealed. But Julian didn't hug her back. Instead, he politely but firmly caught her by the shoulders, detaching himself from her before she could latch on. "Hi, Chloe. Good to see you," he said, his tone completely polite but entirely professional. He stepped right past her into the foyer, greeted my mom and dad with warm handshakes, and then his eyes scanned the crowded room. The moment he spotted me standing near the living room couch, his entire face lit up with a massive, genuine smile. He walked straight past a frozen Chloe, walked right up to me in front of the entire party, and naturally took my hand in his. He leaned down and gave me a soft, lingering kiss right on the cheek. The entire living room seemed to go dead silent. My parents froze mid-conversation. Julian turned to my mother and father, his arm wrapping securely around my waist, pulling me close to his side. He smiled warmly and said, "Thank you so much for having me, Mr. and Mrs. Davis. I am so incredibly glad I can finally be here to celebrate with you all, as your daughter's boyfriend." Somehow, my parents managed to clear their throats, fake a couple of awkward smiles, and usher everyone to the dining table for the catered dinner. But the tension in the room was suffocating. By the time the main course was served, Chloe completely lost the ability to control herself. She couldn't handle watching Julian cut my steak for me, pour my water, and look at me like I was the only girl in the room. She started knocking back glasses of wine, her eyes boring holes into the side of my head. Finally, she snapped and tried to humiliate me right in front of him. "Wow, Julian," Chloe laughed, a bitter, sharp sound that made the whole table stop talking. "You should really be careful. I mean, my little sister was literally sobbing and losing her mind over her ex-boyfriend, Liam, just a few months ago. She kind of just jumps from guy to get attention." I'd hate for you to just be a rebound. The table went dead silent again. My mom gasped. I just sat there, completely unfazed, taking a slow sip of my drink. But Julian didn't even hesitate. He set his fork down, turned his head, and looked directly at Chloe with a cold, piercing expression. Actually, Chloe, Julian said, his voice incredibly calm, smooth, and lethal. Your sister was entirely, beautifully honest with me about her past from our very first conversation. I deeply admire her resilience after what she went through. And frankly, I've never been happier or more certain about anyone in my entire life. That absolutely crushed whatever was left of Chloe's spirit. She looked like she had been slapped in the face. She didn't say another word for the rest of the night, staring down at her plate while Julian openly held my hand above the table. The second the party ended and Julian's car pulled out of the driveway, the front door hadn't even fully clicked shut before the house absolutely erupted. Chloe screamed at the top of her lungs, throwing a decorative vase against the hallway wall. She marched right up into my face, screeching like a maniac, calling me a backstabber, a disgusting snake, and an attention whore. You did this on purpose, she yelled, tears streaming down her ruined makeup. You knew he was the love of my life. You stole him from me. My parents rushed into the hallway, automatically trying to defend her, with my mom yelling at me, how could you hide this from your sister? You know how she felt about him. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, perfectly calm, and pulled out my phone. Mom, Dad, check your screens, I said quietly. I hit a button and airdropped a massive, neatly organized PDF file to both of their phones. It was the master file I had been holding onto for months. It contained the high-resolution screenshots of Chloe's iPad, the raw Photoshop project files proving she fabricated the cheating DMs, the logs of the burner account she used to send them to Liam, and that exact text message where she bragged to her friend about ruining my life because Julian didn't want her. My mom and dad opened the file. As they scrolled, the angry expressions on their faces completely melted away, replaced by pure, unadulterated horror. My dad looked up from his phone, staring at Chloe with absolute disgust. Chloe, you did this? You destroyed your sister's relationship? My mom just covered her mouth, completely speechless, looking at the golden child like she didn't even recognize her. Chloe realized in a split second that she had zero ground to stand on. Her ultimate, toxic secret was laid completely bare in front of the people whose opinion she valued most. I took one step closer to her, looked her dead in her tear-filled, terrified eyes, and delivered the final blow. You ruined my happiness and took away the man I loved because you couldn't have Julian, I whispered, making sure every word cut like glass. So, I decided to play your game. I let you watch him give me every single piece of affection, love, and commitment that you spent 2 years begging him for. He never wanted you, Chloe. He was never going to want you. And now? He's mine. That brings us to the present day. It's been about 3 weeks since the anniversary party. Chloe has completely locked herself in her bedroom, refusing to come out or face anyone, and our family dynamic is entirely in shambles. My parents are completely traumatized by the realization of what Chloe actually is. Meanwhile, Julian and I are doing amazing. We're already talking about moving in together. And the best part? He still has absolutely no idea about the revenge aspect of how we started. He genuinely just thinks he found his soulmate in a coffee shop. My parents keep texting me saying I went way too far by playing such a cruel, calculated long game against my own sister. But honestly, I think the punishment fit the crime perfectly.